welcome back to another Outdoor Philosophy. We're going to continue looking at Daniel Goleman's Working with Emotional Intelligence. And this one here, it's really cold and rainy out here, so needed to do this on my covered deck. So, all right, it'll be an exciting one here. So today we're going to be looking at, I think we're on chapter 7, my apologies. We're on chapter 7, we're going to be looking at the social radar. So the concept of the social radar, as this entire chapter looks at, is your ability, a person's ability to kind of read the social temperature. You go into a room, a gathering, maybe it's a boardroom, maybe it's a party, maybe it's whatever the circumstance is. You go into an individual place like this, and then you can take the temperature. You can determine are things in a jovious mood, are things in a good mood, a bad mood. You know, how are all the moods feeling, and how does this direct how you may react? Do you need to, you walk into a room and a tragedy has just occurred. You don't walk into a funeral home and throw up a big old party streamers. You don't necessarily go into a party and just talk about all of the bad that's happening left, right, and center. Of course, some people have disorders where they just can't read social competencies, and that's what this chapter is a little bit about. Now, one of the challenges is some people legitimately can't read social environments. There's some people that have never been taught or never been trained in social competencies, and so that's a different matter altogether. So what ends up happening there is that a person will, like, some people can be trained to identify this, or at least trained in how to respond to it a little bit better. Some people, it's an unfortunate reality, just can't be trained in that way. But with that, we're diving into the social radar. And of course, we begin talking about empathy. Empathy, what's the difference between empathy and sympathy? Of course, sympathy is that something, if a brick falls in your hand, sympathy means that what you know that it's going to hurt. You don't necessarily know how it's going to hurt, but sympathy is you kind of know it's going to hurt, and you're going to support the person in that, even though you may or may not understand the type of pain they're feeling. Versus empathy is you have experienced that before, and so you know exactly what the pain is like, and so you can deal with it on a little bit different basis. And so that's kind of the thing. You do have sympathy, empathy, or both in some cases. But the social radar is broken down into understanding others, so sensing others' feelings, perspectives, and taking an active interest in their concerns. Service orientation, so anticipating and recognizing and meeting customer needs. Of course, since this book is geared towards business and customers and things, it's focusing on that. Developing others, which is sensing others' development tools and bolstering their abilities, which is another word that we hear in the business world, is empowering somebody, how to empower a person. Leveraging diversity, so cultivating appropriate opportunities, through diverse people. And then political awareness, reading the political and social currents in an organization, which is kind of important because, we don't want to develop environments where people just can't talk about anything at all. It's just, I don't know, we'll get to there in a bit. So the first is understanding others. So sensing others' feelings, perspectives, and taking on active interest in their concerns. So this is that part about social radar, part about learning to listen to somebody. And truly listening, not listening for what script you're going to read for them, but truly seeking to understand. And the unfortunate thing with a lot of business, and the reason I think that a lot of books like this are oftentimes cross the line into hokiness, is because oftentimes an employee is completely locked in what they can do. For example, one of my clients right now, we're working on reestablishing and resetting hosting stuff. And the guy calls up, and the guy's calling from GoDaddy, which is not a good company. I would not recommend anybody do business with GoDaddy. But they call up, and because of course this guy was sold by some aggressive GoDaddy salesperson, sold some massive $1,000, I think it's like $5,000 server that is complete overkill for what he's doing. And so the guy calls up because he's like, wanting to renew all these other things. And yes, to his credit, he's like, I think you're paying too much, which we are. And I said to him, I mean, nothing in the account's happening until March, and I'm not moving because you guys don't offer discounts anymore. And I said, I am aware of what we're doing, and we're probably just going to move companies at the end of this term. And so this guy, he's not listening. I have asked him 3 times for the same information. He just wants to try and close some sale over the phone. We got to do this on the phone so everything's all verified. It's like, I said, no, I don't do business over the phone like that. I said, if you want me to consider some deal you have, you need to send it to me in writing so I can look at it. I've asked this guy for the same information 3 times, and he has not yet answered those questions. Not yet. And I'm not even going to bother communicating with the guy anymore. I'm just going to buy the one service from GoDaddy that we want to get, because this guy has a lot of domains over there, and they have a system where you can buy a subscription to their domain club and get a lot cheaper rates on renewals, which is going to be good for us with the number of domains we have. But the server, I'm moving it completely off of there because they're horrible for hosting. I'm not even going to bother responding to the guy because he's not listening to what I'm asking. Okay, he's not going to sell me. Try and sell me something? Yeah, it ain't going to happen. I know what we need, and this guy is not listening. Now, part of it is some of these guys are they don't have the ability to respond. I mean, I could tell you something and they don't have the ability to actually answer a question other than reading a company script. And that's why I think books like this aren't necessarily going to solve the world's problems. But people with the competency of understanding others are attentive to emotional cues and listen well. Okay? This guy should have recognized that I know a whole lot more about servers than he does, because he's a salesman, and he's trying to tell me things that I know aren't right, and I'm a professional in the field. But he wasn't attentive to any of these cues. Show sensitivity and understand others' perspectives. That's the second part of this competency. And number 3, help out biased understanding of other people's needs and feelings. These are all important as we examine the concept of understanding others. Okay, so we have to be able to listen, to have cues, have understanding, have all of these perspectives. That's exactly what he has to do first. So, of course, they cover in some things, and when empathy lacks integrity, of course, fake, like fake feelings, fake perspectives, things like that. And then we jump into the next section is on developing others. So developing others. See, and this is, like I said, this is kind of a thing of empowering. If you've spent any time mentoring, and I've been mentoring for, better part of 2 decades now, almost, in various capacities. And sometimes it's mentoring in how to, get some businesses off the ground. Sometimes it's just mentoring on social, personal issues, as I've done a lot of work in Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So developing others, the people with the competency of developing others, you acknowledge and rewards people's strengths and accomplishments. You understand the challenges, you understand where somebody has strengths, and you reward those strengths. You say, okay, you have a strength in this one area, so I'm going to give you a little bit more time here, a little bit less time on your weaknesses. We want some time on weaknesses because it helps build competency in other areas, but we want to spend the majority of somebody's time on their strengths because that's what they're going to do best. It comes more naturally to them, and they're going to have a lot better results for you, your company, your service, or them. And that's really the goal of mentoring that I've done, is better for them, not for me. And that's another reason I don't care for the business books as much. Offer useful feedback and identify people's needs for further growth. That's looking at those weaknesses and reestablishing weaknesses. And then mentor, give timely coaching, and offer assignments that challenge a person's skill. And this is where mentoring gets hard sometimes, is trying to get somebody to take a step beyond where they're comfortable. And this is what we need to do. We need to do it for ourselves, and we need to do it for ourselves, for one, and we also need to do it in other people as well. Not giving them the challenge to shoot for the moon when they've never built a paper airplane, but giving them a small assignment that just slightly gets them beyond where they can achieve. Because in slightly getting them beyond where they can achieve, they'll grow more in steps, they'll build their confidence, and they'll learn what it takes to actually grow more. And that's what it takes to develop others. And how the social radar works in that competency is identifying where individuals are. It could be applied to groups as well, but mostly individuals in my experience. All right? And so the next is service orientation. Okay, so service orientation, this is anticipating, recognizing, and meeting customer needs. And for me in my personal life, where obviously I do this in my personal business, focus more on the customer needs. This is why I'm kind of being hard with this guy at GoDaddy, because I know that GoDaddy consistently has ripped off my clients, and that's why I move people off of the GoDaddy platform, because I'm sick of GoDaddy ripping off my clients. I'm completely sick of it. Okay, and so with that being said, in a personal area, in a personal development, understanding, not necessarily understanding the customer's needs, but understanding an individual's needs personally. How can we serve other people? How can we serve our neighbors? How can we serve our friends? How can we serve the people we encounter in need as we live our life? The golden rule: do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. So people with the competency of service orientation, they understand customers' needs and match them to services or products. So that's, of course, the customer focus. So if this guy at GoDaddy actually wanted to make a sale, he could probably listen to the questions I'm asking, because I've asked him 3 times for the exact question. 3 different times for the exact question. Give me the price of this, and this type of service. He keeps on trying to push me into this business grade stuff that I know we don't need. He's not listening. This guy is horrible at service orientation. Well, he's horrible at the social radar, really. He is horrible at understanding customers' needs. I know what our needs are. I know when our service renews what we're going to go with, and I know we're taking it to a different company. Because this guy is simply not answering the questions I have. He just knows what he wants to sell us, and he just keeps on trying to redirect things back to the stuff he wants to sell us. Good luck with that, dude, because I ain't biting. Okay, and he's not answered the question that I've asked multiple times. Give me the price of this particular type of server, and what are the specs and what is included. That's exactly what I had, and I sent that out to him 3 times. And he just keeps on answering with questions. You answer the question with a question, because that's what they teach you in business sales training. Answer the question with a question. No. When a guy sits there and says 3 times, this is the same question, if you don't answer that question definitively, guess what? You've lost the sale. And this guy's lost the sale. So understand the needs and match them to services and products. This guy's not doing that. He doesn't understand our needs. He doesn't understand our website. He doesn't understand what we're doing. And he's not listening to the services that we're doing. He's not listening to the feedback I'm giving him. And I got news for you. This guy doesn't have to sell the client. He's got to sell me. Seek ways, second competency, is seek ways to increase customer satisfaction and loyalty. Okay, that's the other thing this guy's not doing. He's not seeking the satisfaction and the loyalty because he keeps on trying to push on us things that we know we don't need. And I've told him we don't need this. I want information on this other thing, and he still hasn't gotten me that. Seeking ways to increase customer satisfaction and loyalty. This guy's lost it. He's lost it. Gladly offer appropriate assistance. Okay? What is appropriate assistance? Well, in my case as a small developer, if somebody's moving servers and they're a good client, I'm not generally not going to charge them to move a server. I mean, I can do that in my sleep. And I'm not generally going to charge somebody for that. It takes a little bit of time. I might lose a little bit of time in billable hours. I don't care. That's okay, because a guy's already hiring me to do big websites, or hiring me to do a lot of other things. They're paying billing for consulting things. I'm not going to charge to migrate a site for do a different server. But I'm also saying, hey, this is what we need. These are the specs we need. How can I assist you in getting this? And sometimes I'm not the best person to, tell you what should go on your banner or necessarily what banner to use, but I'll say, these are the specs that you need. Would you like me to see if I can get these cheaper somewhere else with the different accounts that I have? Sometimes I get that, sometimes I don't. But it's gladly offer appropriate assistance. And then grasp a customer's perspective acting as a trusted advisor. And that's why this GoDaddy guy called me to begin with. Because he calls the end client, and the end client's like, I don't know anything about servers. Let's get the guy who knows servers on the phone. And so obviously the end client trusts me to make the best decision for him, and we're going to have a good decision, and it ain't going to be GoDaddy. I'll tell you that. Because they've lost the concept of service orientation. He has no concept of that. And then, of course, again, those last two views, which are interesting and probably mean a different thing 20 years ago when this book was written than they do now. So this is going to start walking on some eggshelly, shaky ground with some possible, we need to think about these a little bit. So number one is leveraging diversity. Leveraging diversity. Cultivating opportunities through different kinds of people. So respect and relate well to people from varied backgrounds. And I think that most people do this fairly well. It's just in our modern environment, people like me who are straight white males are generally denigrated and pushed to the side. I mean, look at Google's hiring policies. Right now, they're not looking for any more white males. Well, that's not exactly diversity. Maybe it's because they got too many of those. Actually, no. They're just denigrating the white males. And so, like I said, that's probably not what was in view here. But that's how these definitions can shift in cultures over time. Understand diverse worldviews and are sensitive to group differences. This is important. As somebody who, like, one of the big projects I work with is out of a group in Boston, and there's a lot of Jewish community in that area. And so, we have to recognize the fact that we're not going to get any answers from a Jewish community on Saturday because they're busy worshiping. And that's okay. And I've worked, the first teaching appointment that I had at the university was at a Jewish university. And it was awesome to, just to be part of that. And even, I'm not Jewish, of course, but at the same token, it was interesting to see the importances and the differences of the Jewish holidays, and even to counsel some of the students in some of those, because I had some students, of course, students, it's be the same thing in churches. A kid is raised in a Christian church, and they go off to college, and then they're really questioning their faith. I had a lot of students, Jewish students, come to me, and they know I was a Christian. Like, well, what do you think about this? I said, well, ultimately, if you believe there's a God, you owe him your allegiance, and so you go and worship. If you don't believe there's a God, then ask those questions. Ask those questions of your rabbis and whoever else. But understand the various differences. So I don't get hung up over people's religious or other backgrounds or racial backgrounds or cultural backgrounds. I think it's a good thing. I just don't want it forced. Just like, I was raised in America in the 80s, okay? I mean, I'm a white American 80s male, and that's who I am. And it's just part of my life. I don't try and force that on other people, and I don't want other people's cultures to force it on me. And that's kind of the thing. But understanding the different cultures is a beautiful thing. Accepting the different cultures is a beautiful thing. We don't want to have all one exact unity and one exact perfection and everything, a mishmash of everybody. We need to understand those cultural differences and be sensitive to them. See diversity as opportunity, creating an environment where diverse people can thrive. And this is so important because different people with different backgrounds think in different ways. And this is why it's important to have diversity in a team, so that you can gather these differences in how things go back and forth. And then, of course, challenge biases and intolerance. And of course, we need to challenge bias and intolerance. And I don't really want to say much more on that because too much could be said on it. We are in this world that wants to scream tolerance, but it's from the most intolerant people I've ever seen on this planet. And so, whatever that is. And then finally, political awareness. Again, treading on some shaky ground here. Reading the political awareness. Obviously, some people are so staunch Democrat or so staunch Republican in America. It's just like, you guys can't think beyond your politics. And you're going to have no unity, but you got to lay this down and think about what's best for the culture, what's best for the community, what's best for the business, what's best for whatever it is you're looking to build. And so, now, of course, what this book means by political awareness is different. This is how to play the players in the field, which I consider this deep manipulation. I don't think that this is a section that has necessary integrity. So people with this competency and political awareness accurately read key power relationships. Yeah, how do you find the guy who can get you stuff? Detect crucial social networks. How do you get into the guy who can sell you more stuff? Understand the forces that shape and view actions of clients, customers, and competitors. So, of course, who's the decision maker, and accurately read organizational organizational and external realities. And so these kind of things, this is where I don't like this as much. I don't feel this as much, but there's places where this can be useful. And the greatest example that I have of this is how this can be useful is when you get a doctor's degree, you have a variety of tests, examinations, thesis write-offs, and things like that. Well, my PI was the head of our entire center, and so I knew that I had the PI with ultimately the most power and the most influence. So most people in my program and area were taking between 8 and 10 years to finish their doctorate, and I finished mine in 6. And the reason I did that is I figured out how to play the key systems, in which case one of the things is to be a go-getter. After 6 years, I applied for another job, so I knew I could get out. Another thing is learning to say, no, I can't add one other thing because I have this deadline to get out. And by the way, wink, 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 this is going to save you money because you're no longer be paying me. Wink, wink, wink. And then it's like, how do you find your guys? So I picked the one candidate who had to have more successful completed doctors, and I picked one candidate who was a good friend of the person who he owed a favor to. And then I had one other guy who was a very hard sell. And so now, by nature of putting together a team which consisted of the ultimate power member, a guy with a favor, and a guy who needed the project done, I only had to battle one guy instead of 3. And that's how I finished in 6 years. Because it's as much of a competency in political awareness as it is anything else. That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I think that a lot of this, if you're utilizing this to your own end will rather than the end will of everybody else, it's problematic. But at the same token, there's times we need to play the field this way, and it can be good and beneficial. Otherwise, it might have taken me an extra 5 years to finish. And that's the last thing I want to do, is to be well into my 30s still in school. And that just wasn't what I really wanted to do either. And so with that system, I was able to get out, finish my doctorate, and move on to the professional career quite a bit quickly by playing the political field, which is something I don't always like to do, but there's times that we need to do it. So that's kind of my thoughts on that, on the social radar. We're going to be moving on to the arts of influence next. So kind of interesting to see what's going to happen over there. So thanks for coming along on this outdoor philosophy. Have a look at the links in the description down below if you want to learn how to support the channel. And also, if you'd like a copy of this book, I do have a link to this in the Amazon affiliate link down below, and that is another great way to help support the channel. So thanks for coming along on this outdoor philosophy.